Hi, I'm Lauren Kemp.
And I'm Bridget Price.
And this is Entrepreneurs in Progress. So today I'm excited because we're going to switch it up a bit. Normally we record hour-long podcasts, episodes talking about a specific subject, but we wanted to start mixing in some shorter, more fun and personal content so you guys get to know us a bit better and we can dive into some specific things just for fun. So hopefully you get to know us again a bit better as we go along this entrepreneurial journey. And today we're going to talk about our origin story of Entrepreneurs in Progress, where the idea came from, how we ended up working together, and what both sides of the story are. So let's get started. Bridget, I would love to hear your side of the story of how this podcast came together.
Yeah, I recall us having dinner right before Christmas 2020. And just side note, everyone, Lauren and Brian, they have a pretty big backyard. So at the time, we kept everything like 6 feet apart and we really hadn't been around anybody else. So we felt comfortable eating outside and reconnecting in that way. But I had mentioned to Lauren and Brian how I'd wanted to start a podcast about being married and working together and having a business. And obviously I wanted to do that with Marcus, but he was not feeling it at all. And, I had toyed around with other podcast ideas, and my friend and I were entertaining starting a podcast in a more relaxed, casual setting. It'd be just covering random topics and things like that. When I shared this idea with Lauren and Brian, Lauren was very receptive to it and thought it was really a great idea and trying to loosely encourage Marcus to do it, but he wouldn't budge. So a couple weeks later, Lauren reached out to ask how my podcast development was going with my friend. And I said, we're trying to get the pieces moving. We think we'll start in January, but that's what we're shooting for. And then a few weeks later, right after the new year, Lauren touched base again to see how everything was going. Didn't have that much of an update for her, but I was submitting to this podcast competition for Amazon. It was through their Audible platform. I did not win, but it's fine. I have something better. But after that, Lauren reached out on a Friday night and said, hey, I've really been thinking about podcasting. And I was thinking it'd be really cool if we shared our experiences as entrepreneurs and kind of the ups and downs and what we go through versus sharing how to help other entrepreneurs and avoiding this hustle and grind type of content. And I said, I'm totally down. I don't think there's anything like that that's being talked about in terms of what it's actually like, the actual experiences as we are navigating it. So we're not even talking about it from a position of we've made it, but this is currently what we're going through. Yeah. So I think Lauren found a really great niche, and literally after 1 week, we were recording. So Friday, we got that text message. I got that text message at 9:00 at night, y'all. So it was a late Friday night text. We were probably both in our sweats and we're chilling with our booze. But I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I told Marcus, he's, oh, that sounds great. And boom, I'm ordering my stuff, my mics and all necessary equipment. And we have a couple of meetings and then boom, we're recording the following Saturday.
Yeah, I still can't believe we pulled that off in 1 week, like from that text to recording, which is just insane.
It was awesome because it's like your drive to get everything and move quickly is what I've been needing and what I would prefer to do in any other circumstance. But then you tell yourself, oh, I have to focus on this for the company, or I have this to work on, or you talk yourself into thinking you need everything perfect down to the T.
Yeah.
You need to make sure everything's working. Let me check on my background. If you guys go back and look at our episodes, technology was not up to par. I did not have my lighting together. We just decided to jump in, and that was our fastest teacher, I think, versus trying to get everything perfected. And I'm happy that we did that.
Yeah, you can see the literal evolution of our podcast from
and just two seasons.
Yeah, and just a few episodes in season 1. It's crazy, but it was awesome. So I remember that night when we were talking with you and Marcus, and to give a little background from my side. So early in 2020, I had just left my job. It's January and I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And Brian and I had gotten the idea of like, oh, like, let's do a podcast. Why not? Let's learn this marketing skill. And we were originally going to talk about remote work because I had been able to pull that off while I was at Salesforce and make my case and get the approval. And I was going to have this podcast to teach people about how to get the approval and how to optimize your office space and work remote. And I thought I was so ahead of the curve. And then, of course, 2 months later, fucking pandemic hits and everybody is working remote. And I'm like, I'm not special anymore. And all the articles come out about remote work, and there's just so much content out there and it gets saturated immediately. So Brian and I were like, okay, that's not happening.
Right.
And then as Brian got busier with Rotiv, I still wanted to do a podcast, but I knew that he would not have the bandwidth to do it. And also I did not want to do this particular idea with him because we think similarly. We have similar experiences. Bridget, you were like at the top of my list immediately because we have different backgrounds, we have different businesses, we have different experiences and ways of thinking. So I think that makes for a much more interesting podcast than just hearing the same thing talked about back and forth. So when I heard Bridget talking to us about her and Marcus doing a podcast, I was like, and like potentially like guest starring and stuff, I was like, oh yes, like I love this. And I was like, I have this idea, but it sounds like she's busy with these other 2 ones. So I'll wait and see how it goes, which is why I kept following up because like I was beating around the bush about it. Cause like, as Bridget said, I followed up a couple times because I'm trying to be like, hey, how's that podcast? Like, what you doing?
And I had no idea. I thought it was, like, oh, she's checking. I was like, okay, this is good. Like, I have to make sure like I get going on this. And I told her about the Audible, but yeah, I was like, oh, it's so nice that she's following up. And
I'm like, I would love to be a guest. Let's do this. And but I wasn't direct. I was like telling Brian, I was like, I don't know how many times I can follow up with Bridget like this before I start sounding like desperate. And I was like, I just need to be direct. I'm not quite getting my message across. And so that's how the 9:00 Friday night text happened because I was so nervous because I was so excited about this idea and I knew I wanted to have a partner and I knew I wanted it to be Bridget from the get-go. And I was like, oh, what if she says no? And
it was that text and send and then preoccupy your time until the response comes through.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's gone to the ether now. Let me just myself.
Yeah. And that's why I also said was like, I'm doing this either way. You have to have the mentality that like, I'm going to do this like with or without you. And you're talking to a partner. And I was just like, I just need to convince her that this is happening and that I want to do it.
Right. And I was convinced.
Yeah. And then we did it a week later. So.
Yeah.
But it just cracks me up because back then, Bridget and I have talked, like we knew each other through our husbands. We had hung out a little bit, but we're not nearly as close and didn't know each other as well as we do now, obviously having talked to each other for months this year. Yeah. It just cracks me up. Like, I just needed to be direct.
That's a great lesson because I think that we hope that people can read between the lines or we hope that maybe they can even read our minds.
Yeah.
And sometimes the direct approach is the best approach. And I think it was perfect timing considering that I had really wanted to do something like this in the entrepreneur space with Marcus, but he really wasn't on board. That didn't necessarily rule me out because I was figuring out like, what can I do by myself type of thing. I didn't really want to do it by myself because I don't think I'm that dynamic, but whatever. I said it would be better to do it with someone else. And so it was literally perfect timing. And I had been looking into the whole podcasting thing because podcasting was like a 2019 goal of mine. Didn't happen. Then 2020 was a shit show. And then I said, okay, I'm going to really shoot for 2021. And when I saw the Audible competition, I was like, okay, this is it. This is my, I don't want to say sign, but I'm just going to get going. And even when Lauren and I were working on our podcast together, I was working on the podcast with my other friend. We haven't released our episodes yet. Again, it was more of a learning experience. And it's interesting because that podcast required a bit more, I don't know, knowledge or research because we were talking about current events and we wanted to sound knowledgeable. And in this space, I feel like one of the reasons why it's worked so well and we've been able to move so quickly is because literally, again, we are talking about what we are going through. and it's very natural in that sense.
Yeah, there's
And
not a
so,
lot of research that we need to do. We have our outline and we just think about it a little bit and talk about it.
yeah,
We go.
and it's more off the cuff and it's more just unplanned, I guess you can say. And then obviously, I think us just being on the same page and working to be on the same page, like meeting weekly and talking through ideas and getting our setups and all of that, I think that really has helped us continue pursuing this and then evolving along the way. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
We've had some learning lessons. Like, you probably go back to the first episodes in season 1, and we were like sipping cocktails. And
Oh my
Lauren, I have
God.
to tell you something. I haven't told you this, but I told Marcus before we were recording once a week every Saturday morning, and it was about 9 a.m. And at first, I was so excited about the cocktails because, you know, I love a good cocktail. But then there was a time where I'm like, holy shit, like after we recorded our episode, I was like, Marcus, I can't do this getting drunk by 10:30 in the morning. This is a lot for me.
Well, it also started because we were so nervous. Like, we're like, we need something to loosen us up because we've felt so nervous doing something we haven't done before. So we'll do a cocktail of the week. And it was fun, like learning new cocktails and stuff. And then we did get to a point where like, this isn't sustainable.
No, it was too much. It was like, oh my God, I cannot drink at 9 in the morning. Like, you know,
I like the idea in theory. In practice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
we gave that up quickly. I thought I could hang. And it's so funny that I didn't tell Lauren. I was like, a mutual unspoken understanding. We're like, I'm drinking coffee today. And she's like, I got tea and like
water. I need to hydrate.
Like after the recording, that's when it hit me. I'm like, this is not making for a productive Saturday. So let's back up here. And like you said, I think we've learned to loosen up a bit in the beginning. We've gotten comfortable. But in the first few episodes, we just were trying to shake our nerves a little bit.
Yeah. It's so funny to look back on that. And another thing that we did differently in season 1 is, like you said, we recorded every Saturday morning for 3 months. Season 2, we have recorded in 2 weeks, y'all.
Yay!
We have just gone every day. We've sometimes done 2-a-days. We are batching. I don't know why we didn't do this before. Like, other shows do it that way.
Yeah.
So
learning lessons.
Now we know. But it's been a fun journey. And like we've said, or will say on our podcast, we're excited for the next iteration in season 3.
Yeah.
But for now, so thanks for listening.
That's the background on Entrepreneurs in Progress. So if you have something like that, find your friend, text them directly.
Be direct. Let them know your intentions. All right.
Well, next time, guys.
Like, share, subscribe, all the things. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn.
I'll see you guys around.